Please do not harass or attempt to intimidate any users featured in this video. PonderSprocket commentaries are intended as critiques of situations or behaviors based on the information available and are meant to demonstrate wrongdoings, contradictions, or dispel false narratives so that others may come to an informed opinion. Under no circumstances is targeted harassment appropriate or encouraged. Quick note here, guys. This is actually part 2 of a 2-part co-op commentary on one video. Follow the link in the description to go see part 1 so you're fully caught up. Preemptive trigger warning for mentions of sexual assault. Happy Spooky Month, my cutie pumpkins! Or potentially later than Spooky Month. I'm not entirely sure when we're gonna get this video finished. I'm about 10 seconds from killing a pumpkin of the less cute physical variety, and so I thought, what better way to appreciate Spooky Month than with some terrifyingly bad arguments? But I think I'm gonna need a bit of help with that one. Now, who could I call to help me out?
Hark! For I have arrived.
Behold, my collab partner, Nezzy Monster!
I hate you.
It's time to get back to a video where a guy tries to flip the madame situation in an effort to vilify the artist. How fun.
Before you say I'm acting entitled, keep in mind that this girl has spoken to several strangers. YouTubers or not, that doesn't mean you know them. You think we should have learned from this situation.
Yeah, YouTubers that haven't treated her like garbage. I myself tried to contact her with no response. In fact, I just wussed out and deleted it because I was worried I had bothered her. I am also aware that I am not that big of a YouTuber, so I don't blame her for not wanting to talk to me about the situation in comparison to someone like Ponder and Nani who have a bigger audience. Not only are they more reliable to get her story out, but I'm less known and therefore appear like more of a stranger.
Akumu, it's not because she knows these people that she's willing to talk to them, it's because they were polite in approaching the situation. You were not. Even when Creepshow Art contacted Madame to get her side of the story, she started out cordial. Why? Because immediately jumping in and acting aggressive doesn't make people want to open up with you. Indicating that you were willing to listen to each side of the story fairly does, and this is not something that you conveyed when addressing Slumers, evident by you literally calling her the dumb artist everyone is talking about. You yourself even claim that when people get aggressive with you, you return that aggression, so why on earth you thought it was a good idea to start aggressive with Slumers and then, oh goodness, be shocked when she wasn't immediately polite and clambering at your feet so that she could confess her guilt is baffling. Akumu has even acknowledged that he's removed comments from the video that we are discussing, likely because they weren't too nice. So he's allowed to ignore people who respond aggressively to him, mind you, on a video where he was already throwing accusations out against a person in order to vilify them. But if people aren't automatically receptive to him being a little shite, well, that's just their fault, and it shows that they're hiding something. That makes sense.
Also, didn't she block you because you were basically harassing her on not only Twitter, but also Instagram?
Which begs the question, if you were so in the right and Slumers is totally at fault for not responding to you as you wanted, why are your comments deleted? Something to hide, maybe? Mind you, this was written before his Twitter account was taken down, which it has been, for harassment. So now the comments are gone because his original Twitter account is gone, but originally it was because he had removed them. I don't know why. It's not like you stopped being a dick at any point in time.
Nani merely tried to push it off as if it wasn't a big deal, when if you look at all the things pieced together, it could be.
If it happened, but there's nothing to prove that it did. And again, Madame effectively contradicted that happening in her video by making note that she and her friends assumed that Slumers was 18 based on the note about her preparing for college courses, not because she said that she was 18. You know, for someone who talks so highly about logic and common sense, how do you not know it's logical and common sense to ask the person making the claim, in this sense Madame, as she's the one claiming that Slumers lied about her age, to provide evidence for it, not the accused? What, you think that when Slumers came out with her claims, we all went to Madame and asked her to provide evidence of them? No, that's stupid.
Madame has also proven to be willing to lie. Whether about her financials or about this child, I wouldn't be surprised if she continued to do so if it gave her the smallest chance to appear as the victim.
It is not okay to act like this. Especially, it's not okay to act like this when you're trying to convince an audience, let alone multiple audiences, let alone a mob of people, that you're innocent or that someone else is lying.
Finally, something that we can agree on.
Yeah, but it's also not okay to act like this if you want someone to talk to you.
They're coming there to ask questions, and you're telling them to kill themselves. Not answering any of them, not asking what they are, not trying to alleviate the confusion.
Funny you say that.
Also not calling them names and simply calling them ignorant and a waste of time to talk to when you don't want to explain your points.
I seem to remember that when I asked you to clarify your points in my comments section because I felt that your video didn't explain things well and you were right there to answer them and I was willing to listen, you initially did not want to explain your stance and why you felt you were right. I had to prod you to get you to continue the conversation and explain. Guess I'll just remain ignorant, right? I mean, is this how you act then? Not answering questions? You get on Madame's case for effectively being unnecessarily aggressive and not answering questions when you have done the exact same thing and you start out unnecessarily aggressive.
A thing that Slimmers also didn't do at all. She was very transparent and clear about everything to the best of her ability. But she is clearly just as awful and terrible as a person who tells people to kill themselves, doxes children, and mocks people who have recently lost loved ones. Over a joke made months prior that they had apologized for.
Or anything. And you only brought 2 screenshots into your video, so it's hard to really find anything that's usable, credible, anything. The only thing that so far that's credible is the 2 screenshots so far.
You mean the 2 screenshots that prove some of Madame's claims wrong? You mean those same screenshots that you used to prove that the community was under some misunderstanding, but again, only proved your claim wrong?
You mean the 2 screenshots you've been trying to use for most of your argument?
However, if we do take something from there, there is something that could be credible. No. Was it right for Madame to leak her phone number? Absolutely not. I'm aware that some seem to think that Madame didn't know her age at the time, but she did.
I'm sorry, what?
You've been arguing this whole time that Madame didn't know her age!
It isn't professional, it is immature, but it's not actually doxing. This was around the time that Madame found out that Slimmers was 15, although she pretended to be someone of age and even said she was going to college.
Which one is it? I guess it's also super logical to contradict a point you made at the beginning in the fucking middle!
However, age doesn't exactly matter. Of course, from a legal standpoint it does, but the principle is to never dox anyone.
No shit, titties!
What? Yeah, but she tried to dox a minor. People view that situation as more serious because it's child endangerment. Why are you specifying that it matters from a legal standpoint, but that otherwise it doesn't? It clearly matters more that this was a child whom Madame was attempting to dox. I would also like to point out that the beginning of your video was you arguing legal terminology and what art theft was, effectively not the correct terminology to use. Now approaching it from a legal standpoint doesn't matter? Why? This seems like a much more serious section of the situation than people potentially using the wrong descriptor.
Also, way to admit that Madame did something illegal, but still put her and Slimmers on an equal standing in terms of wrongdoing, despite that, again, Slimmers did the ultimate sin of putting a comment in the wrong place and deciding to vent on a private Instagram account.
Doesn't matter if the number's fake.
But you said earlier that because the number was fake, then that means it wasn't technically a dox, and now you're saying that it doesn't matter that it was fake and condemning Madame? I don't mind that this is what you now think, or that you changed your mind. What I mind is that you did it all in the same video, 2 minutes apart!
It doesn't matter how old they are or how professional or unprofessional they seem to be. However, with the screenshots I have available to you all, this might explain why Madame doxed her. Example screenshot A. Here it says directly, I don't know what else is worse, art theft or pressure. I saw her comment reply. I don't think attacking won't make her listen, but there's nothing else we can do but that. So you guys can comment, I don't mind, but what she's doing is not allowed. Here she's giving permission for cancel culture to attack Madame, which then led to the dox.
Are you sure about that?
Prove it. No, seriously, prove it. If you're so sure that these are the events that took place and in the order that they took place, prove it. Otherwise, you're throwing out a claim with no evidence.
I'm more inclined to believe this happened after, due to it saying, but what she's doing is not okay.
Now, some of you may be thinking, well, he hasn't provided a time frame when this was uploaded, so there's no way to prove his claim wrong. Wanna see a magic trick? Firstly, let's look at when everything started going down. Slimmers gave Madame the avatar stills to use on September 9th, although she was not online to accept them until September 10th, which is the same day Madame's 50,000 subscriber video went up. Slimmers contacted Madame about credit on the 11th, and this is when Madame got the comment from Nightfish.
Nani's video on Madame came out on September 14th, and in that video she showed a screenshot of Slimmers' Instagram account which contained the Madame period Instagram story that Akumu is bringing up here. In that video, she also talked about Madame's doxing of Slimmers.
Additionally, the user Cyan Dreamer on Twitter was posting a thread about the situation, and on September 12th at 6:43 p.m., they posted a screenshot showcasing Madame attempting to dox Slimmers, meaning the latest the dox could have happened was 6:40 p.m. on September 12th, and the earliest is after 5 p.m. on the 11th.
Here's where my my role as the wild card comes into play. The foreign factor, the bootleg Uno reverse card that was definitely not made in the US. Well, kind of, sorta. It's difficult. You see, I live in Japan, and I'm a day ahead of Ponder and all of you, a thing that has come up quite often in the making of this. And Instagram doesn't give you a direct time when stories are posted. It just says the week. It'll say 1 week, 1 week, 1 week, all the way up until it says 2 weeks with no in between. This means we can tell when a new week starts, which, when it first happens, gives us a direct timeline for how old the post is, at least in terms of days.
Nezzy lives in a timeline.
As we all know, Japan is an alternate reality from the US and Canada.
One day ahead of myself. At the time of scripting this, the Madame Instagram post that Akumu is showcasing here showed up as having been posted 3 weeks ago for me on October 8th.
And it read 4 weeks for me on October 9th, which means it was made between the 11th and the 12th.
Unfortunately, within the nebulous and uncertain time frame for when the attempted dox happened.
Oh, but we can get more exact than that.
Akumu doesn't have access to when this slide was posted on Instagram, just an approximation in the form of 1 week. Only one person would have that access. Slimmers. So I asked Slimmers about it. Incidentally, I was not a dick when I did it.
Slimmers gave us this screenshot, which, because she was the owner of the post, showed the exact date and time it was posted, that being 8:20 a.m. on September 12th. Still within the attempted dox time frame. Akumu was close. But because these events, the order of which is very important, happen on the same day, the exact time of when they each happen needs to be known.
So now it's a matter of figuring out when the dox happened.
The problem with trying to figure that out is that only Madame would have access to the original attempted doxing slides and the time they were posted. And it's not exactly like we can go and ask her for them, so we turn to the next best thing.
Slimmers gave me access to the original call-out post on Madame. Within that archive post was a series of very helpful comments left by the exceptionally helpful, without even knowing it, cutie pie Champion Mahina.
The reason it was a series of comments was because Champion Mahina was commenting in response to Madame's Instagram story updates, which means that these comments could be used to pinpoint an even more approximate time for when the dox happened.
Which happens to be exactly what I did. I opened the original story on my phone and changed the date to the 22nd of January because, as of doing this, it is currently the 18th. It read 18 weeks. I changed it to the 23rd of January. It read 19 weeks. Okay, 23rd of January, 3:17 a.m., 18 weeks. 23rd of January, 6:20 a.m., 19 weeks. 23rd of January, 4:25 a.m., 18 weeks. 4:37 a.m., 18 weeks. 4:42 a.m., 18 weeks. 4:47 a.m., 18 weeks. 4:49 a.m., 19 weeks. Bingo! The comments were left between 4:47 and 4:49 a.m. on September 12th.
Which means that the dox happened before 4:48 a.m. on the 12th of September. Even taking into consideration that Ponder is 1 hour ahead of Slimmers in terms of time zones, that means that for Slimmers it happened around 3:48 a.m. And she didn't post the slide Akumu was bringing up until 8:20 a.m., which means that it couldn't have been the reason for Madame to dox Slimmers, because it wasn't even posted until something like 4 hours after the dox even happened. And side note, that means Madame posted it at 3 or 4 in the morning, apparently with nothing better to do at that time than post a child's contact number. That's really sad.
You didn't provide us any materials to work with, and we still built you a fucking flame-spitting birdhouse with an indoor pool.
With a side of salt from the future. And before we hear anything about, well, that's from her call-out post on Madame, I was talking about her stories. Why would it be expected for Slimmers to further clarify in her stories that Madame did indeed fix the credit, if not only the evidence for the claim as well as the acknowledgement that she fixed the credit was in that call-out post, but the stories were also made in response to that call-out post? The call-out post already specified that Madame fixed the credit after forgetting to give it before removing it entirely on purpose. Slimmers does not need to specify the same thing over and over and over and over again if she has already made this information freely known in the post that makes the claim about what Madame did in the first place. The people who are reading the stories would need to read the call-out post to understand the situation, and that is where the information should be, not the stories where she's answering questions people are asking in response to that post.
So no, Akumu, those screenshots do not explain why Madame attempted to dox Slimmers. They didn't even exist at the time she tried to do it. Additionally, let's take a closer look at that screenshot.
Does it help to comment and pressure her to credit you? Or would that make it worse?
I don't know what else is worse, art theft or pressuring. I saw her comment reply. I don't think attacking won't make her listen, but there's nothing else we can do but do that. So you guys can comment, I don't mind, but what she's doing is not allowed.
Let's first start off with the fact that we think Slimmers meant I don't think attacking will make her listen, not won't, because that wording doesn't make any sense.
Keep in mind at this point, the attempted dox and harassment had already occurred. Slimmers is also 15, and I know you hate the age thing, but she probably didn't know what to do.
Yes, because despite what some people in Madame's server seem to think, age is an excuse. A 15-year-old doesn't have as much developmental maturity or life experience as a 19-year-old, particularly because a 15-year-old is only a third of the way through puberty and a 19-year-old is reaching the end.
She isn't old enough or experienced enough to handle a situation like this, let alone something of this size and scale. Even if you want to argue that Slimmers had a big audience and therefore should be used to this attention, she isn't used to this much negative attention.
Negative attention that was an attempted directed harassment campaign.
If I were her age, I honestly wouldn't know how to handle a person with 3 times my following on a more popular platform attacking me either. It's possible that she just wants this situation to end and is trying to detach herself from this while recognizing that Madame is still majorly in the wrong. Heck, you could argue that she knows that her audience won't listen to her regardless and is simply choosing to detach herself from that.
I would like to argue, on the other hand, that unlike what Akumu is claiming, Slimmers is not actually trying to direct harassment towards Madame. Slimmers makes note within the post that she feels that the only way to get Madame to stop using the art is to pressure her into stopping via comments, indicating that she's doing something wrong. But she also ends off by stating that what Madame is doing is not allowed. You read this as exclusively talking about the fact that Madame using Slimmers' art without paying for it is wrong, but it could be read as all of what Madame is doing is not allowed, which would include attempted doxing and directed harassment, meaning that Slimmers is not condoning or encouraging that behavior.
Granted, it's a possibility. Just like her potentially posting something that could be perceived as what you're claiming, it could also just be badly worded. Again, it's a possibility, as well as what you're claiming.
So that's 3 different possibilities to consider and no proof for each because this is based on interpretation of a 15-year-old's wording. In case you hadn't figured out from us deconstructing your asinine pedantic complaint against people using the term art theft, because the term you try to replace it with is basically just a synonym, yeah, teenagers don't often word things the best. Oh, but we do at least have solid proof that your accompanying accusation that this point was the inciting reason for the attempted dox was bullshit.
Gee, it seems like both you and Slimmers don't know what the fuck you're doing half the time. Like most teenagers.
Am I saying Madam shouldn't go unpunished over doxing? No, absolutely not. What I am saying, what the purpose of this video is saying, what it is to point out Slimmers is not as innocent as you all like to put it.
This whole segment is pointless now because this segment is based on the belief that the screenshot you provided happened before the dox, but it didn't.
Yep.
So now this situation is even more pointless than it was before!
On top of that, he acknowledges that Madame deserves to face consequences for what she did, yet he is specifically going after the person that pointed out one of her problems that led to everybody recognizing she was kind of a garbage person, and who was then a victim of Madame's dox attempt as a result, which was not prompted by the screenshot you claim prompted it. So Madame is supposed to face consequences, but you are, as you say, somewhere in this fucking video, I can't remember at this point, attempting to even the scale by harassing Slimmers. But that doesn't make any sense. Why are you evening the scale if the offenses were not the same? Why do you somehow think that pointing out that a person has done something illegal and potentially making a mistake while doing so deserves the same backlash as committing those illegal offenses? Wouldn't the fact that Madame publicly revealed an extremely personal thing about Slimmers which she didn't want made public count as sufficient consequences for daring to put up a vent post and commenting in the wrong place?
When 2 cars collide, they cause damage to one another. Damage happens to both. When 2 people do something wrong, they both face consequences.
And when one car scams the other out of a commission and then rams into them and claims that the other car was at fault, where was I going with this again?
Insurance fraud, or do you want damage theft?
Plus, another thing to consider, when 2 cars collide, one is usually more at fault than the other. We specifically have ways of determining which car is more at fault in a collision based on how the collision happened. So even the scenario that you are presenting as a reason why both sides should receive equal consequences despite their involvement is not a situation where both sides would receive equal consequences despite their involvement. I can't even say that it's understandable you wouldn't know this because I imagine you don't drive because I also don't drive!
2 wrongs don't make a right, ZZ. You're 22 and apparently don't know this.
But it wasn't 2 wrongs don't make a right. It was 6, 10
5
wrongs versus 1.
yet you tell me to pay attention to school.
Akumu, pay attention in school. No wonder he doesn't know about stuff like AP. He can't even keep his points straight. My AP Lang and AP Lit teachers would be laughing their asses off at his crumpled tissue of a script.
Odd flex, but okay.
Just let me have this.
So here's the timeline. Slumurs makes fan art, although she changed her story. Let's go with the one she told Nani, which furthers our point. Madam contacts her wanting to do business and asks prices. Slumurs replies that she doesn't have PayPal, but didn't tell her why.
Because it was in her bio, according to you.
You even stated that Madame knew her age the whole time. So again, which is it?
They work out the arrangement consisting of credit in the description and at some point a vocal shout-out. This was not a legal agreement.
Yeah, we'll come back to that claim. If you're taking a hint as to how all of Akumu's other points have worked out, then you know how this one is gonna work out.
Madam posts her first video, Slumurs then comments in the YouTube section, asking for credit instead of contacting her through her phone number, private Discord, or even Instagram. After some time, Slumurs vents about it, and then Madam sees the comment, which leads us here.
What? He's got the timeline wrong again. The Instagram post where Slumurs vented about not receiving credit was posted before Slumurs and Madame sorted everything out, not after. It wouldn't even make sense for Slumurs to have posted it after Madame credited her, because the original story said, been working for Madame lately, I haven't gotten credit in the description though, but it's okay, this is exciting. Or do you want to, I don't know, prove that our understanding of the timeline is wrong with evidence? Nope. Yeah, that's about what I figured.
Where Madam initially fixed the credit and even shows Slumurs.
I'm sorry, what? Akumu, you told us earlier that everyone's understanding of the fact that Madame originally didn't give credit was wrong. Now you're stating that she fixed the credit. She wouldn't have to fix the credit if she hadn't failed to give credit in the first place.
Don't you see, Ponder? You're simply ignorant. Only a great intellectual like Akumu could notice the fucking obvious.
Oh god, I feel ignorant. It's too stupid. Nezzy, slap me and make sure I'm in the proper timeline.
Are you monetized? Because YouTube may not be able to handle that kind of kinkiness.
However, she had it blurred in her video to be an asshat. Slumurs did provide this right here, and she even said this in Nani's video, but if you go through her stories talking about the issue, as I have, I had used it, but if you go through her stories telling these people what happened, she does not bring up the fact that Madam initially fixed it. Why didn't you bring that up? Maybe that would have not led to the mob, and maybe some kind of arrangement could have talked out, but instead, no, you don't mention it.
Minus the fact that in Nani's video, Slumurs read out the DMs between herself and Madame that showcases that Madame didn't give credit, and then she fixed it.
You literally showed the part of Nani's video where she read it out, and even then you watched the video. So you watched it, edited it, then re-watched for final touches, and didn't notice that?
She's like, that of course credit, which was the plan, but okay, I got you. And I said, I mean credit in the description of your videos. Then she said, yeah, that's the plan. I said, I got you. Boom, done. Just DM me because I stopped reading the comments after 48 hours. So I was like, thank you, that's all I wanted, not hating.
Or is this exclusively about the Instagram stories made within the first 2 days when the drama was first exploding? Do you really want to make that claim, Akumu? Really? For one thing, despite claiming that you went over all of Slumurs' Instagram stories from that time and that she never specified this information, why would you not show us the Instagram stories in question? You've supposedly gone over them and seen them, we haven't. You're making a claim without bringing up the post that you're directly making a claim about, and no, the one slide you brought up doesn't count as sufficient evidence because not only were there something like 4 related stories, the original call-out post, the vent post on her private account which turned into a post answering questions on the matter, and yes, this is where Akumu's screenshot is from, a post providing more evidence, and another question post. The story your single screenshot is from contains at least 18 other slides, none of which you use to showcase or prove your claim. You do not get to show one slide that doesn't contain a certain piece of information and use it to make the claim that every other related and unrelated slide from that story and all of the others also do not contain that information. So why in the actual hell would we believe anything you have to say? For another thing, you claim that Slumurs never made an effort to make this information known, but I can literally find a comment from her original call-out post where someone was commenting clearly under the misunderstanding that Madame never credits artists, and Slumurs corrected them. So it's not like she's actively trying to hide this information like it's being dishonestly presented here. And I say dishonestly presented because, again, Akumu has provided nothing except one screenshot to make a claim that spreads across almost 50. Akumu, you said that you went over her Instagram posts. Did you not check the comments? Did you even check the Instagram story? Because I did, and I saw things. Yeah, saving that one for later.
I kind of feel like you did that on purpose, considering any time someone is labeled an art thief in the art community, mobs appear.
What is he trying to say?
I get it. He's making the same claim that Madame did, essentially. That being that Slumers was initially trying to get people to mob against Madame, and that's why she didn't tell everyone right away that Madame had fixed the credit. Except just like Madame's claim, this one doesn't make any sense.
Let me just cancel this girl by waiting for her to, by chance, not do this thing that she says is common sense to do, and then tell her that she didn't do it so that she can fix it before I tell everyone she didn't do it. My plan is flawless.
I think your plan is wrong.
Not scientifically possible.
Akumu, if Slumers' original goal was to incite people against Madame because she was using the artwork without credit, why would Slumers then tell Madame that she forgot to give credit? That would just give Madame the opportunity to fix that lack of credit, which she did, which would throw a knife into Slumers' plan. Because then, assuming Slumers was trying to send people to attack Madame, everyone who went to Madame's video and checked the description would see that Slumers was lying.
Madame and Slumers' conversation also occurred on September 11th, 2019, and it occurs within the span of an hour after the 11 o'clock mark. Madame accuses Slumers of sending people to attack her at 4:17 p.m. There is no telling what Slumers was doing between those 5 hours. Remember, she is 15. You being 16, I would have hoped that you'd understand that you both have responsibilities aside from your phones. She may not have had time to correct it.
Slumers mentions nothing of the missing credit as well, besides the fact that we have something that confirms this, so we can take that as she corrected it. Because Slumers had vented, people started to attack Madame, which led to the removal of credit, and Madame being an ass and attempting to dox her.
I thought you said Slumers' Instagram story was what led Madame to attempting to dox her. Plus, the Instagram account that she made the Instagram story on, which Akumu is claiming sent so many people to attack Madame, yeah, that account is a private one which at the time had less than 300 followers, and there currently only exists proof of one person coming to Madame's account and asking for her to give Slumers credit as a result of that private account's Instagram story, and it was on the video that Madame still had not credited Slumers on, despite Slumers acknowledging that she had fixed the credit on the other video.
As previously, we went over how she condoned cancel culture. Anyone who condones it, why? First off, that's my question. Why would you condone it at all?
I condone it in instances where people are scamming their audience out of money by claiming that they're suing the YouTube community punching bag, and when that's brought to light from a single artist speaking up and shining a light on a past of problematic behavior.
I condone it when this person has a history of being shitty towards multiple artists because I want to protect other artists who can't resist her 2-for-1 exposure deal.
Plus, you know, cancel Onision.
Oh yeah, cancel Onision.
I condone some hate to the artist to even the scale. I did not ever attempt or mention Slumers should be cancelled.
That's not how that works. Plus, everyone who commented on this said don't send hate, and we can't control our audience.
Oh yeah, that's so much better. I directed hate towards a 15-year-old just like Madame did. You know, the thing that everyone is pissed at her for, because that's so much better. Oh, and let's not forget that you've been doing it based on an extreme misunderstanding not only of the timeline, but also of basically all of the rest of the events.
Not to mention again, you are trying to put a small, single mistake on the same level as a criminal act and a past behavior of threatening minors into silence. Because as we all know, a good old-fashioned stabbing is just as bad as accidentally farting in an elevator.
And, Akumu, if you believe that people are attempting to cancel Madame and that they are doing so through this harassment that's going on, and you are, of your own admittance, trying to even the scale by delivering the same levels of harassment to Slumers, that would mean that you are attempting the same thing with Slumers. Cancel culture is effectively a means of harassing a person or ruining their reputation enough that their current, usually online occupation is no longer viable, which is what you are doing with Slumers. That is what evening the scale means. Herpader. It doesn't suddenly change if only one person is doing the harassment, especially if that one person is indicating that they are attempting to make the level of harassment equal with that which is intended to cancel someone. Do not pretend like you are somehow more high and mighty because you are a single person responding to a non-coordinated quote-unquote attack on Madame by then coordinating an attack against Slumers. And with this video encouraging other people to do the very same, you are no better than the very people you are claiming to be the problem.
There's a lot of things that have been destroyed. A lot of people's lives, careers, and more that have been destroyed. And just because sometimes even if there's no evidence, they're destroyed.
Except here there is evidence. There's a lot of evidence, and we keep finding more.
Thanks to this video especially, we found lots.
People who allegedly scam their fans out of money by claiming they're going to sue Onision and then take that money to go on a vacation and attend a concert in Washington shouldn't have a platform where they get to keep doing that.
Not to mention crying about being homeless and losing her livelihood in a Discord server, and then trying to flex on them haters with a screenshot of AdSense from a month ago, and a $3,000 purse.
Akumu, I understand being perturbed at the notion that people can go overboard and harm those who haven't done anything simply because someone who didn't like them claimed, without evidence, that they were a bad person. But this is not that, and you are directing and composing yourself as though it were. And this isn't even a belief that you're solid on, as you have expressed that if people whom you like can have their lives ruined by false allegations, or what you perceive to be false allegations, then people you don't like should have it done to them too. Apparently, even if it can be proven false. That's not how this works. You don't get to see someone fall just because you don't like them, even if they did nothing wrong. Even then, why would it be up to some random 16-year-old who falls and who climbs? You're getting mad at the community for wanting to see consequences dealt to someone who literally broke the fucking law and who has been directing harassment against minors who get in her way.
But Ponder, Slimmer's sinned. She's a sinner.
For example, Vic Mignogna, even though that has nothing to do with the situation, that is a very good example.
Yeah, not too sure he'd be a fan of you admitting that you've been directing hate towards a young artist for things she didn't actually do.
This situation has evidence, but it only has evidence pointing to one side because no one wants to point out the evidence pointing to the other.
I mean, aren't you just assuming that there is stuff to point out and that's why the evidence is needed?
But you said there was no evidence. And even then, the fact that there was a lack of support for Madame was because she was shit at defending herself.
And because she was caught in a bunch of lies.
That too.
Like, originally there wasn't anything pointing to Madame to indicate that she'd done something wrong. Slimmer's screenshots are the pieces of evidence that showcase that to not be the case. If you think that Slimmer's is also at fault, then you need to provide evidence of that, and you haven't been doing that. All you've been doing is misinterpreting the evidence we already have and acting like that proves your conspiracy theory.
And acting like the things everyone already knew was some kind of grand revelation, funnily enough leading to some of our own.
I'm basically stating they have double standards.
But it's not double standards. Double standard, a rule or principle that is unfairly applied in different ways to different people or groups. It's being unfairly applied because the rules that were broken were not equal on scale or quantity.
The crimes are different, therefore the reaction from the public is different.
Now, I'm aware people are going to reply with, you shouldn't have a platform, or anything along the lines of platform. I know that there's going to be someone that types clown emojis. But this is the truth, folks. Just like the video all you want, but sometimes the truth hurts.
The only one that hasn't been able to handle the truth here is you, hon. Because whenever someone proves your point wrong, you either suddenly ghost or bite back like an animal backed into a corner.
Now, why would I make this video? Because Slimmer's made mistakes, yet just because she's been revealed to be 15 and her dad decided to be inappropriate, people are literally treating her like she's done nothing wrong. Immediately forgiving her.
No.
People also already knew her fucking age.
Also, can we all just acknowledge this instance of a teenager wording something particularly bad by saying that potential sexual assault was someone acting inappropriate? Ugh.
Even if no one knew about this, which everyone had stated should have been kept fucking private.
Which means that we also have spreading a minor's traumatic experience to people online under the guise that she is a liar because you want to be spiteful to be mad at Madame for as well.
Madame only revealed the sexual assault case as a desperate attempt to make her seem like a liar. Nobody wanted to talk about it because it had nothing to do with anything.
It's easy to immediately forgive someone when not only do they apologize, their mistake was also small and kind of inconsequential.
Especially in comparison to all the other shit the other party did.
Remember when we said that artists pick and choose their battles? Akumu, are you an artist? Pick and choose your battles, man.
Madam deserves what she got. She crossed the line with attempting to dox her in general. Now, should it be this severe? Obviously not.
I mean, provided you just ignore literally everything else that people are mad at her for doing.
Oh, that giant dumpster fire over there? Yeah, that's not an issue. But this little cigarette someone forgot to stamp out, now that's a hazard.
What is it now? Not giving credit to an artist when credit was the deal for the commission you got from them.
Using fan art without credit and then lying and claiming that fan art was the commission when you hadn't even paid for that yet.
Attempting to dox a minor.
Directing harassment towards a minor for asking for payment on work they did for you that was agreed upon.
A now demonstrated pattern of behavior of threatening minors into silence.
Laughing at a child for losing his friend over a joke he had apologized for making 3 months prior.
And allegedly scamming people out of their money with the claim that you need it for a legal case and then spending it on something else.
You know, I don't have the best sight. I wear glasses. Maybe I'm just seeing double. But that seems like a lot more than just she tried and failed to dox this minor.
But if it's going to be this severe, why is it not at all any severe on the other side? However, if you're really going to take a moral stand, then how is it okay to victimize one side, then clearly, when clearly the other side made mistakes? How is that okay?
Because the crime dictates the punishment.
Does he not know how anything works? In court, people aren't tried for littering and murder in the same manner. That's incredibly illogical and downright unreasonable.
Logic! Logic!
Oh dear, we may have broken Ponder.
Just because she's underage? Are you joking? How can you allow someone to condone cancel culture because what, she was sexually assaulted? Get out of here. A sexual assault is not a pass to continuously make mistakes.
Literally nobody said that. Everybody actively tried to avoid talking about it because it had nothing to do with anything.
Why are you so convinced that everyone is going easy on Slumers because of her sexual assault and not because the issues being presented behind either party are completely different? Why must you assume people are addressing the situations different specifically because of the sexual assault, when the video that most people have talked about, Madame's response, has Madame acknowledging that she was also sexually assaulted?
Yeah, did you forget that Madame also claimed to be a victim of sexual assault, and yet nobody's been going easy on her?
Now, if someone were looking at the situation differently, acknowledging Slumers' sexual assault and purposely ignoring Madame's, you might have a point with that particular person. But not only have you not showcased that, we've already explained that there are plenty of other reasons why people are treating what Madame did as being different from what Slumers did. Because it was. Also, because Madame revealed her own sexual assault publicly online of her own choice. She doesn't get to make that choice for Slumers.
It's not. It's not a pass to make any mistakes. But these people are just literally delusional. For example, this guy says he's seen my art, yet I have never posted any of my artwork online publicly. Not publicly. I've sent it to family members. I've done commissions for people in real life. This is one of the reasons I don't post online.
What does this have to do with anything? First you're talking about the sexual assault, now you're talking about someone who claimed to know what your art looks like. Way to switch topics mid-sentence. You do not have the maturity to talk about this. You barely seem to have the focus for it.
Something else I found rather comedic is when artists scream art theft or art thieves, even though in this case it's not art theft.
Even by your own definition it is.
Now, why do I find it funny? 2 reasons. It's funny because people who usually scream art thieves or art theft literally have public Instagrams, DeviantArts, or sites that have their art on it. Seriously, you can't yell art thief, but be posting your art on a superhighway of data called the internet.
Ah yeah, here it is. Here it is.
That would be like unlocking your doors in your house and then complaining when someone breaks in and takes them.
Yeah, it would be dumb to refer to it as though it was breaking and entering, because the term would actually be home invasion, which is still a crime even if you leave your door open or unlocked.
Or trespassing on private property.
See what I just did there? We acknowledged that the understood term was incorrect, and then we made a correction as to what the proper term would be. Akumu, take notes.
You can't say that someone can do something purely because they were able to. The opportunity for crime doesn't justify the act of committing it. That's dumb. It doesn't matter if I left my door unlocked, the property is still mine and the items in the house are still mine. By your logic, everybody should be allowed to take whatever they want if a person doesn't take action to actively protect an item of value.
And you know what this is all over? Yeah. Second, Slumers most likely doesn't have a copyright. Her parents would have to pay for that.
No, no, no.
Ooh, this is where I'm gonna have fun. Here's the thing. We actually did research on this, and guess what?
I mean, if you guessed that we didn't have to do much research because we didn't blatantly mix up copyright with something else, then you'd be right.
But if you guessed he's right, then go to the corner. Copyright, as stated by copyright.gov from the US Copyright Office, since both of them are in the States, specifically states copyright, a form of intellectual property law, protects original works of authorship including literary, dramatic, musical, and artistic works, such as poetry, novels, movies, songs, computer software, and architecture. Copyright does not protect facts, ideas, systems, or methods of operation, although it may protect the way these things are expressed. And then, your work is under copyright protection the moment it is created and fixed in a tangible form that is perceptible either directly or with the aid of a machine or device. Boom. Digital art.
Basically, Akumu, you're mixing up artistic copyright with trademarks and patents. Trademarks and patents are the things that you have to pay for. Copyright protects original works of authorship, while a patent protects inventions or discoveries. Copyright is actually legally provided to an art piece at the moment of its creation. Mind you, people do register their copyrights, oh yes, but the reason they do that is to legally protect themselves by acquiring a certificate of copyright that you can then use in court to prove that you own the work. It's not because it's required, it's because registering your copyright gives you extra protection. There's actually something else that you can do to prove that in court, and we'll go over it in a moment.
Considering she doesn't have a legal business either, she most likely does not, and she hasn't mentioned it.
And she doesn't need to. Why? Because she doesn't need one.
I think you all can tell I had a lot of fun with this. But I searched around if it was necessary for an individual to have a business license in order to sell their work, and guess what? Whether freelancers need a business license depends in part on the services they provide. Graphic designers, for example, commonly aren't required to get a license if they operate under their names and report business earnings as personal income. Boom. Slimmers is technically a freelance artist, an individual who works for their own individual income with their work. She wouldn't need a license to sell her work.
On top of that, most places in the world have minimum requirements that have to be met for a person or their small business to need a business license. This changes from place to place, but where I live, that threshold is a minimum of $30,000 of annual earnings. I don't know exactly what the stipulation would be for where Slimmers lives, but I imagine she doesn't meet the requirements because she wasn't even accepting payment for her work. She was trading.
So if we go back to good old plagiarism checker, plagiarism is using someone else's work without giving proper credit, a failure to cite adequately. We've already proven this. Copyright, using someone else's creative work, which can include a song, a video, a movie clip, a piece of visual art, photographs, and other creative works without authorization or compensation if compensation is appropriate. So way to prove that she did both! Literally everything we found in 5 minutes. Something to note, kids, that shows Akumu really wasn't paying attention in school is citations. You always gotta have citations. I'll even put them in an APA format in the description just for you.
If she had first posted her work to YouTube, DeviantArt, or even Amino that provides you an intellectual property rights to that image posted on there, this could be different.
It's been a moment.
Your work is under copyright protection the moment it is created and fixed in a tangible form that is perceptible either directly or with the aid of a machine or device. We've already said this, but just in case you didn't hear it in the back.
On top of registering your copyright with regards to digital and sometimes physical artwork, provided a picture of the piece is taken, another way you can prove your artwork is your own is by showing an authentication date in the form of an upload. This can be an image of the piece that you upload to YouTube, DeviantArt, or Amino, as Akumu stated, those would work, but so would any post of the image on Instagram, Pixiv, Twitter, Tumblr, or really any site that tracks the date of uploads. You can also send the image to yourself in an email. Actually, I hear that's quite a common technique. You know what else would work? That screenshot where Slimmers sent Madame the avatar stills, because it stipulates a date and time the image was uploaded online. So not only can that screenshot be shown to demonstrate that Madame was given the art she's been using without paying for it, it can also be shown to demonstrate that Slimmers owns the copyright to that art. That seems kind of funny, I don't know about you.
Also again, by that logic, I apparently don't own the pictures that I post of myself.
An additional complication in Akumu's wording that I would like to point out here, barely a minute ago, Akumu stated that you can't complain about art theft in a setting like the internet, where artwork is posted in easy-to-see spaces and websites. Now he's stating that if Slimmers had posted her work somewhere like DeviantArt, Amino, or Pixiv, she would have been fine, except then the artwork would be posted in a publicly available forum, and according to Akumu, she wouldn't be able to complain if Madame stole it, even though posting it there, again, according to him, is supposed to offer her some level of artistic protection. This is almost along the same lines as claiming that a crime cannot be considered theft if the thing stolen is not a physical good, therein no longer in the victim's possession, not only ignoring the second definition of the word that would allow for the inclusion of digital art, especially given that Akumu claimed that credit could be stolen, but also I guess apparently forgetting that identity theft is a thing? Actually, a quick note, Akumu tried explaining his side to me, only after a little prodding, as when I didn't immediately agree with him and asked him to clarify, he wasn't originally willing to. And within those comments, he said the same thing. He said that Slumers didn't own her work because she hadn't filed for a copyright, but when I pointed out that by that logic, I don't own any of my work, he said that no, I own my work, except I also haven't paid for a copyright. So why do I own my work without having to pay for this copyright, but Slumers doesn't own her work because of the same thing?
Yeah, and you know what this is all over, really? Some credit, that's it. Even though everyone knows by now that Slumers made those stills, made the art.
So because Slumers has now grown far beyond the point that any exposure from Madame could have helped her to get, now we should all just stop caring that Madame is a conniving little thief, is that it?
Wait, she got exposure? Alright everybody, back up. Everything's fine, because exposure totally makes up for all of Madame's shitty and illegal actions, right? She paid for the bail with exposure, apparently.
Plus, you've contradicted yourself again. According to you, the shoutout was a part of the deal. Madame hasn't done the shoutout. At least not based on how shoutout is defined. So it doesn't matter how much exposure Slumers gets from the situation. By not going through with her end of the deal, Madame still hasn't paid for the work. Fuck, guy, you really think that we should set a precedent for that? We just stop caring that someone scammed an artist because the artist, by pure chance, managed to get a significant sub boost out of it? Wouldn't that just encourage more people to go out and scam artists because once the artist gets enough subs, everyone will stop caring, and look, they got free art out of it!
This situation should be over, but I also want Summers to get attacked. Over what? The thing she already apologized for? People vilify Madame because she hasn't learned and has fucked off with people's money somewhere in comparison to Slimmers, who has apologized numerous times. Why are you trying to vilify someone for something that they have learned from? What would be the point of learning and progressing when her doing that still isn't good enough for you?
Wait a fucking minute. He's trying to vilify someone based on a past mistake that they have acknowledged and learned from. Holy shit, Akumu is supporting cancel culture.
Whoa, sick of my god! Also, can we take a moment to just marvel at how he is actively trying to get people to hate on an individual, something that is a super big no-no in the commentary community, and something that everybody said not to do to Madame? Way to target harassment to someone while also saying earlier how you don't understand why someone would do that. Double standards much there, buddy?
Madam still refuses. And I mean, Jesus Christ, you people. You're attacking her still. After a week.
I mean, at this point, we found out that she might have scammed people out of money, and that's only been because people cared for more than a week. Yeah, shock of all shocks, if you're invested in something for a week and then something new and more shocking happens in that situation, your interest is reinvigorated. It doesn't just spike after a day and then perpetually dwindle regardless as to if anything new happens. Is that how you operate, Akumu? Wow, cartoons must be so boring for you. Guys, I just want to take a break from this commentary because it has been so full of completely biased conspiratorial rambling, so I want to take a second to point out that while Nezzy and I are scripting this, my avatar in the Google Doc is a little anonymous Dumbo octopus.
It's so adorable and so fitting, but are you seriously stopping the commentary for that?
The video we're covering has been so stupid and so stressful in its white knighting rage that I feel we need to take a break for some cute little octopus jokes. Sue me!
And another video is being made. This guy made a video. Yet no one's telling him that he's prolonging the drama.
So, let's just ignore the fact that Akumu is mad that, after a week, the drama is not dispersed, wherein, during that week, Madame was still actively using the stills that she had refused to pay for, was still refusing to credit Slimmers, whilst also ignoring her illegal actions, and posting a video trying to discredit Slimmers, where she, without permission or provocation, publicly revealed Slimmers' sexual assault and used it to claim that she was lying about it. Even then, you can't actively prolong the drama if the drama is prolonging itself by there simply being more to the story that people are discovering over time. I mean, sure, if people just kept talking about tiny, minuscule details or repeating the same things over and over, that would be one thing. But reporting on and talking about the new, more serious updates isn't really prolonging drama. Since the whole Slimmers thing happened, it's also come to light that Madame might be taking advantage of young creators, that she might have scammed people out of their money, which is potentially further exemplified by the garbage fire that is how her Patreon is run, as well as her deleting all of her Onision videos and rebranding herself to Princess Ash. On top of that, she also recently attacked another artist and publicly broadcast said 14-year-old artist's private business email for the ungodly sin of wanting the artwork that Madame was using, now without providing credit, because credit was originally provided, and then when the artist sided with Slimmers, Madame removed it, and which she hadn't paid for, to be removed from Madame's profile picture. Yet Madame claimed that the artist was attacking her livelihood and trying to get artwork that she had paid for removed from her merch store. At this point, it's warning people about a literal alleged scam artist who has been harassing children and stealing her assets. Even the stealing of assets has been a pattern because her original merch store had artwork from an artist named Loish which she hadn't gotten permission to use.
The reason why people said you were prolonging the drama was because you pretty much stated that you were going to be hyper-focused on Slimmers and what she did wrong. Which has proven to be nothing but pointless and petty since, again, she's apologized and moved on from this, but you keep trying to drag her back in despite the fact that the reason why it's still going is because Madame keeps acting like a little shit. The drama was the catalyst for all this other stuff, and in many people's eyes has evolved into a bigger issue than what we thought it was.
Yeah, at this point, Slimmers was the one who initially pointed out the issue, but she's not really a part of it anymore. It's spread out into completely different waters, gone from the river out to the sea.
Into the cold, dark abyss of weebiance.
Well, actually scam artists, but that too.
And teenagers not knowing what the fuck they're talking about.
Par for the course.
You want to know why no one's telling him that? Because his video is against Madam. His video is his experience with Madam. His somewhat bad experience with Madam. It's against Madam, so it's totally okay. But you're prolonging the drama if it's against Slimmers.
No. The video Akumu's talking about here, he lists two, but I went out and watched both to be sure of which one he was talking about, is the one by Toasty Vanilla. That video, while mentioning the drama at the beginning, isn't one that I would say is prolonging the drama because it's not even about the drama. Toasty Vanilla uses the fact that Madame is a big talking point right now and takes advantage of it by telling the story of his own personal interaction with Madame in the past. Toasty Vanilla's video also came out September 25th, 12 days after Nani's video talking about the situation. How is he prolonging the drama when the drama was literally still going on at this time? If you don't get your video out within the first week, it's prolonging drama. Like, no, this is stupid. It's like when a sequel to a big Hollywood blockbuster comes out, so people start making videos on the original. It's just someone taking advantage of what's popular. His video doesn't really prolong the drama because he just uses it as a jumping point to tell a personal story.
When an individual is put under a spotlight, other people want to talk about their personal anecdotes with that individual, either for better or for worse. I'm not gonna say whether it's right or wrong, but that I understand why it's done. YouTube runs on keywords, i.e. the name of a YouTuber, so it makes sense that they would want to capitalize on that experience. Also, if their experience was a particularly bad one, they may be choosing now to speak out because it's safe and they are less likely to receive backlash.
However, your video, Akumu, talks about things that the people focusing on the issue have already moved past and hyper-focuses on a subject of the drama who has since been pushed to the side because of the other more serious facets. That is prolonging the drama. You're prolonging the beginning of the drama and dragging someone who is no longer even involved back into the fray.
Correcting points that nobody made, stating the obvious, and mixing up the timeline multiple different ways within the same video is not bringing anything new to the table and is effectively forcing the conversation to stay in the same place you personally want it to be.
Not to mention contradicting yourself every 2 minutes with text you edited in after the fact, which makes it even more deliciously pointless.
By the time I was finished editing, 2 people had made videos on her, so consider it as me talking about both.
In that case, D'Angelo wouldn't have been prolonging the drama either, as he was also shining a light on past offenses that Madame had done that nobody knew about, showcasing that she has a pattern of problematic behavior. Problematic behavior that was specifically directed at minors, which was relevant. That's just uncovering more of her illegal activities. What, do you just think if the evidence for her crimes is a certain number of months old, not over the legal cutoff point for what she's being accused of from what I know, we should just not address it?
He was also trying to show the illegal aspects of what Madame was doing, and plus, another video that wasn't talking specifically about the drama. D'Angelo brought up stuff that was found afterwards, which was the OMG NCP situation.
Yeah, technically speaking, this is basically a whole new drama. It's not just art theft anymore.
So again, not prolonging, merely bringing light to stuff that happened after the fact.
I'm pretty sure so far I'm the first one to make this kind of video.
Yeah, because nobody else has been this stupid, openly hateful, and misinformed, yet so unabashedly confident that they were right.
And you people are just still trying to cancel culture her over that. Still trying to cancel her.
If you actually think it's still only about the art after all of this, I don't know what to tell you, boy. Frankly, it sounds like you've got beeswax jammed up every orifice one might classify as or confuse for an ear.
I mean, he's admitted being actively biased against Slimmers, another thing you don't do when making a commentary, so I'm not surprised he's trying to hold on to any teensy thing he can find. It's like a parent saying your room looks like a pigsty because there's a shirt on the floor.
But then can't even the scale. I have seen nothing but me and maybe 13 people bring something up about Slimmers. Because supposedly, this is how the situation is supposed to be.
It's not that this is how it's supposed to be. It's just kind of how it landed.
Have you ever considered that you and those 13 people can't find anything to bring up because there isn't anything to bring up? That's just never crossed your mind? And I mean, people tried to help Madame. People told her that she shouldn't be behaving in the way she's behaving. From what I've heard, even some of her fans have been telling her that, which would probably explain why she's still losing subscribers, because her fans don't appreciate how she's acting.
Madame attacked anyone who outwardly said that she was in the wrong, even those in her own Discord server. Slimmers recognized what she did wrong and accepted it so that she could move on with the situation. They both started in the same place, but while Slimmers decided to move towards improving herself, Madame fucked off to Washington with money she scammed from her viewers.
So until she confesses her mistakes and gets the backlash she deserves, or if both sides calm down, okay? If everyone quit attacking Madame, then this could all end.
You heard it here, folks. Unless the artist confesses to these things that I'm blatantly wrong about, this is not going to stop. Nobody likes a guy who threatens to harass an artist openly in a video, my dude.
She has admitted her mistakes. You are just actively ignoring that. Madame has continued to make more, newer mistakes that you didn't mention. If this was a scale and you plopped everything down, poor Slimmers would be halfway to the moon while Madame would be halfway to the center of the earth.
Hey, I apologize for the mistakes I made. They were pretty dumb and I know I was in the wrong.
I didn't realize you were that dumb artist everyone was talking about.
Could you not?
This doesn't stop until you apologize.
Yeah, I'm blocking you now.
But no, people are still going to attack Madame. And this is going to continue to happen. So if you're going to continue to attack Madame, by your own logic, with this evidence, you should also be attacking Slimmers.
Your evidence sucks.
People will continue to attack Madame because she's continuing her minor, incredibly illegal
and unprofessional
crime spree.
Can we also appreciate that attack in this context is either look into her past and present day actions to find out the actually illegal stuff she's doing and report on it, or leave a mean comment on her YouTube videos. I could make a joke about this being about as much of an attack as exposing a corrupt dictator, but Akumu projects onto the edge of extreme paranoid hyperbole so much already, I don't really want to add on to it.
So not only does he make up terms despite there being pre-existing ones, but he also doesn't know what well-known ones mean either. Note, my dude, criticizing someone and being a dick aren't the same thing. Saying that doxing a minor is a shitty thing to do is not being a dick, and calling someone dumb and naive is not criticism.
However, you don't. You want to know why? Because double standards.
I'm starting to think you don't know what that term means either. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Double standards is the concept of different rules for different people, but the thing is, they were under the same rules and did very different things.
And before we continue, preemptive warning guys, beyond this point is where the video starts getting gross for a short while. I know that you might think it's been bad up until now, but yeah, Akumu starts showcasing and talking about issues of obsession, and it does get a tad difficult to sit through. Not a lot, but enough to make note of it.
We've been trying to make these videos fun for you guys because at first, it was silly. The points were dumb, but this is when Akumu legitimately gets kinda disturbing, and some people may find this part uncomfortable. So just a warning for you guys, if you need to step away for a bit at times, by all means do so.
Now people will ask, what gives me the right to do this? What gives me the right to punish her? What gives you all the right to punish Madame? If I can't punish Slimmers, what gives you all the rights to punish Madame? What gives you the rights as human beings to attack someone, but when I do it, it's wrong?
You don't have the right to punish Slimmers because you are trying to punish her either actively for minor offenses that she has already apologized for, or you're trying to punish her for things that she didn't do and you have absolutely no proof of her doing. Madame's crimes are still being exposed, so nobody gives a damn if someone makes a video pointing out another law that Madame is breaking. Does it seriously not occur to you in all of this that it's because you're wrong? I mean, at least on something? Even I've had instances where I see something that my friends don't and I start thinking that I'm wrong because they don't see it. But once I explain my points, they usually come around with, Oh snap, you're right. You have explained your situation, but nobody agrees that you are right. I think that says something, my dude.
Not only did Slimmers not do anything to you, people are not attacking Madame, they're criticizing her.
Mind you, we're comparing the videos of the situation against Madame to Akumu's video against Slimmers, and only the ones that we have seen, not comments. I don't know, maybe some comments are attacking her. It's always possible. Madame has actually claimed that people sent her DMs after all this happened with explicit, illegal, or traumatizing content contained within said messages, though she has not provided any evidence of this claim, and therein it can't be believed immediately at face value. People do tend to go to extremes, especially given the whole alleged scam thing now coming to light. But even then, why would that justify you harassing Slimmers? If it's unjust for Madame to be harassed in general because she doesn't deserve it or because harassment is wrong, then shouldn't the goal be to stop the harassment of Madame instead of harassing Slimmers? But that isn't your goal. You're fine with the harassment continuing, I guess, provided the person that you also dislike is also getting harassment. You're not actually helping anyone in that situation. You're just directing even more harassment onto another person potentially unfairly. It's like if one person accidentally got their hand chopped off because they did something dangerous, and then the person who pointed out that what they were doing was dangerous but perhaps didn't act in the best way also gets their hand chopped off as punishment. This mentality makes no sense. Actually, I suppose a better comparison would be if Madame chopped off one of Slimmers' fingers, Slimmers pointed out that Madame chopped off one of her fingers, so Madame's hand was cut off as punishment. Now you're wanting Slimmers' hand to be cut off as punishment. Yeah, that makes sense. Rather than seeking to fix the problem that you acknowledge is a problem, you're just contributing to the problem, and it's fueled by your dislike of Slimmers, not because you actually have anything that she needs to be punished for, as evident by you demanding proof of Slimmers' sexual assault when she wouldn't even have to prove the assault since Slimmers didn't want that information public and Madame was the one who forced it into the public eye against Slimmers' wishes, making the claim that she was lying about it when she had no proof of this. Why is Madame perfectly allowed to say that someone is lying when she has no proof? This means, Akumu, that you are acting out of emotion and not logic.
Telling her that doxing isn't okay isn't an attack. Telling her that scamming her fans is wrong isn't an attack. Stating that maybe she should stop breaking the law isn't an attack. You actively hiding evidence, cutting corners, and continuing to pursue an issue that has been resolved, i.e. Slimmers already fucking apologizing, seems like a pretty obvious attack, and a devious one at that.
And before we move on, we need to specify, for the love of all that is wicked and sullied in the world, do not try to use Akumu's broken logic as an excuse to go out and harass him. What he's doing is wrong, yes, but to try and meet him with his own blade is not going to fix the situation.
You don't block a punch with another punch. You just take a step back. Trying to solve harassment with more harassment doesn't work. If you're concerned for Slimmers because Akumu is harassing her, then you should seek to support the person you think of as the victim. Do what he says, even the scale, but do so by countering his harassment with your support. Also, please remember that Akumu is also underage. Does that excuse what he did? Of course not. But harassment is definitely not how you teach an impressionable teen that they did something wrong. The best we can do is hope that he watches this and learns from this situation.
Fix the damage potentially done by his hate by flooding her with love. And then one day Akumu will grow out of this and he will move on, and Slimmers will be left with an abundance of love.
Don't fall into the same trap of thinking that harassment is how you solve a problem of harassment. The reason this is happening is that Akumu felt that someone was being harassed when they didn't deserve it, or that someone else deserved it just as much. To believe that Slimmers is being unjustly harassed and therein do it to Akumu in return is to make the same mistake he made. Do not feed into the cycle.
That's not how this works. It's wrong both ways, or it's right both ways. So if you're going to have the right to do it, so do I. You can't just say, oh, she did it to herself, because Slimmers had a part to play in this too.
Starting to think this kid operates on a black and white mentality too.
No room for compromise, no prisoners.
No room for compromise? Heck, it's no room for the actual facts of the case.
Don't bring logic into this.
Bet you anything he charges the getaway driver for a murder that somebody else committed.
Morality goes both ways. Yeah, when the actions are equal. Funny that we should be doing this while, as of writing this, tomorrow is my last class on philosophy and moral ethics. Context is a huge factor. If two men were convicted of murder, but one killed in self-defense while the other made a whole plan, then no, they are not on the same level of punishment because the law recognizes their situations. To say that every situation must be treated exactly the same despite variables constantly changing is a lazy and barbaric way to view morality and ethics.
Basically, the punishment fits the crime, and your punishment, which has kind of been openly expressed to you, doesn't fit the crime.
It's funny too because people are saying I'm obsessive and insane. Why? Because I'm doing something they don't like. Yet when I call them the same, I'm in the wrong. When I do the same, I'm in the wrong. Why? Because these people are pathetic and don't like it. They don't want the truth out.
People are calling you obsessive and insane because you refuse to leave Slimmers alone. It's one thing to make a video, but you have shown that you went after Slimmers so much that you've been blocked by her on both platforms. You even admitted in this video that you had to view Slimmers' Instagram to get that screenshot of her stories with an alternate account.
I mean, probably also because he's reading into things so incorrectly and contradicting the flow of events to suit his narrative so much that it is kind of a thing that an obsessive person does.
Not to mention, you've been advertising this video as a biased narrative specifically against Slimmers, despite saying both did wrong. Another kind of obsessive thing. So obsessive, in fact, that you've ignored all the other things that Madame has done because you know it would outweigh hers.
Everyone says that I'm insane! Guy, wouldn't a sane person start to question their sanity at that point?
Side note, it is rather upsetting Mad Libs won't be making a response. I wonder what she has to say. She's blocked me. I didn't lie about Slimmers, nor have I lied about her in general. I never claimed to have her number. I said I had her county in court case, which was provided by OMG, IJ, however, or James. He provided it. It's a YouTube video, so...
Okay, for one thing, you absolutely suck at cluing people in on what's going on. You know that unless someone was intimately aware of the situation and what you've been doing on Twitter, they would have no idea what you were talking about, right? For another, not only does this ignore the context of the tweet where you were apparently, according to you, directly asking people to send you Slimmers' docs information, or at the very least, information so personal that you could have used it to dox her, you're also ignoring that apparently the information you were able to get came as a result of a bad censoring job on OMGIJ's part, and that it's kinda creepy that the one guy this obsessed with taking Slimmers down has gone out and found that document. That really just showcases how dangerous it could have been for Madame to have actually succeeded in doxing Slimmers.
How did you not realize that Slimmers may not have known about the bad censoring as it was OMG's job, and approaching her with her county and case files wouldn't be creepy as shit? That is sick. Also, can we just point out the god-awful way this guy presents his screenshots? Like, what is this supposed to be? Who is talking? Who's tweeting? We know it's you because Ponder and I have seen your tweets, but nobody else would know this was you.
Why are you censoring yourself? Where was this even from? Was that screenshotted from someone else's video? Why is the formatting such garbage?
Who's talking in the lower part? We can't see who the comment came from. Did it come from this Mad Libs person you're talking about? This whole screenshot looks pointless because there's no context for anything. We don't even know where this screenshot is from because it's cropped in such a weird way. It could be Instagram, Twitter, YouTube.
If you agree with doing the right thing for justice, if you believe that all justice should be served, if you believe that the truth, not just fragments of the truth, but the entire truth should be out, you'll support me. You'll like this video. You won't continue this. You won't deny the truth. You'll accept it.
If you disagree with me, you're wrong. If you don't agree with what I say here, even if you provide reasons for it, you're wrong. And above all, if you don't agree with me, you don't agree with the truth. Akumu, let's be real here. Even the logic you are presenting with this, if you think that Madame should be harassed, then it's okay for me to harass Slimmers, is stupid. By that logic, there could be a billion people who agree that it's not okay to harass Madame, but if one person disagreed and went out of their way to harass her, then by what you are presenting here, it is then justified for you to harass Slimmers. And even then, why should it not be the reverse? You think that if people you like can have their lives ruined, that justifies the lives of people you don't like also being ruined. So why would this only apply to you? You think it's okay to harass Slimmers, so why could other people not therein use that knowledge to say it's then okay to harass Madame because she did so much worse? Your logic is predicated on you and only you getting what you want because it's what you personally, as a 16-year-old boy who isn't even fully mentally developed, believe is right. This is ridiculous. You are being a child.
Because we all know a shitstorm's coming my way. I know for a fact I'm going to get a crap hate for this. I know for a fact, even if I post a future video that has nothing to do with this, it's going to be affected by this because that is how pathetic people are in this world.
I mean, by your own logic, people are allowed to attack you until you apologize. Isn't that what you said you were going to do until Slumers apologized? That this isn't going to stop? Yeah, weird how that's something you're allowed to do when it's against someone you don't like. If it's you, then that means people are sheeple. God, it's so obvious that you're 16.
Also, I think it's more pathetic when someone continues to vilify someone else over their own misconceptions of evidence, despite the fact they had already apologized before. I also think it's extremely pathetic to not take into consideration an opposing party's point of view and block everyone out like a child covering their ears and screaming. We have listened to you, but you sure as hell won't listen to us.
Now anyways, you all, take care. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay too. My Instagram and Twitter are linked down below.
So then what was the fucking point of the case files? He just has them, I guess.
You know, I'm not familiar with this game, but I hope that Akumu is playing as All For One because the personality tie-in would be so perfect. I could laugh myself to sleep tonight.
So,
hold up everybody, there's fucking more!
I messaged OMGIJ252, the YouTuber, on Twitter, and we were talking about the situation with Solmars and Madam, and I let him know of the evidence that I found. He responds with, okay, I'm gonna try not to be biased. Listen, Claire was a fan of Madam. She told me herself she's a fan, and after watching her hospital video, she drew Fanart. She did not tell Madam the correct age. She did it because regardless of Ashley being one of Claire's favorite YouTubers, she didn't want to give a stranger her age on the internet. She did later on tell Ashley the truth though. Slumers didn't have a PayPal because she doesn't have a bank account to store her PayPal money to, which we know.
Okay, firstly, you already stated that her age was in her bio. This is according to your own video. Knowing that her age was in her bio, why would Slumers try to hide her age? And even then, yeah, not telling someone your age online because they're a stranger is kind of a good reason to lie about your age.
Secondly, you're asking a third party about what another individual experienced? I don't care if they're friends or if they know each other. This is all still hearsay.
Thirdly, Slumers already stated that she told Madame her age. You have, up until this point, demanded proof of that, alongside firmly stating that she did not tell Madame her age, despite the fact that you have absolutely no evidence to support this claim. Now, OMGIJ is telling you that Slumers did tell Madame her age without offering proof, and now you're believing it? Or conceding that it could potentially be true, despite not only operating as though it was firmly not true throughout this entire video rather than just something there was no evidence for or against, but also OMGIJ got the information that it was true from Slumers. So you don't believe a claim if it comes directly from Slumers, but if it's offered up by somebody else who was likely told by Slumers, then you'll consider it? It's almost like you have a firm, unabashed bias against Slumers, and whatever she said wouldn't fucking matter.
It should also be noted that OMGIJ states that Slumers originally did not give Madame the correct age and then did, but once again provides absolutely no evidence of this. Is that the reason why you're entertaining hearsay that doesn't have any evidence? Because it confirms your preconceived notion that Slumers initially lied about her age?
Even if he's not believing that part, and he's just believing OMGIJ when he says that she lied about her age initially and later corrected it to Madame, that contradicts Madame's own retelling of events, where she said that she assumed Slumers was older because she mentioned that she was prepping for college, indicating that Slumers did not claim herself to be older, and it was an assumption on Madame's part.
Claire brought up her assault story because Madam said she faked it. You think Claire should be punished for faking her age and condoning cancel culture, but you dig through her private case all because you want to point. I don't know how anyone else feel, but to me that's honestly really stupid. Then he sends another message saying Claire also told me that Madam did eventually credit her for a short period of time, but after the situation escalated, it was removed. All I'm going to say at this point is that going through her case is wrong, and her entire case is her business. She may have shared it to various YouTubers, but she only showed us to prove a point, not for anyone to scroll through her private records and stuff. So you're telling me that someone underage is going to tell a stranger on the internet, let alone with a following, let alone known to occasionally be toxic. I mean, she's a Leafy rebrand, or a Leafy clone, if you will. She's going to tell that person her sexual assault story in 2 weeks of knowing that, but she can't tell him that she's 15.
Oh yeah, and I guess let's just ignore that OMGIJ states that Slumers clarified to him that Madame did fix the credit when you've been claiming that she was not making an effort to make sure people knew that. Sure, let's just glance over him blatantly stating that she did the thing that you claim she wasn't doing.
Not all sexual assault victims are going to act the same, and Slumers stated that she did it as a method of sympathy because Madame admitted in the hospital video she made fan art for that she was also a victim. How is it so odd for Slumers to do this to an individual of trust, but not for Madame to tell her decreasing 50k audience of strangers?
I would also like to point out, and God, nobody get offended by my wording here, a sexual assault is kind of a nebulous thing and isn't directly tied to a person as an individual. It's a traumatic experience, but not one of the descriptors that could let someone actively track another person down. Unless it was massively broadcast somewhere. People share their experiences all the time without sharing personal details about their person. People on Reddit write stories about their lives without indicating their age, gender, race, or place of birth unless it's relevant to that story. I don't see why it's so shocking that a person would reveal an experience they went through but choose not to share their age, assuming that's what she did, because Slumers claimed that she did share her age in a call with Madame, and Madame claims in that same call that she didn't share her age.
A tragedy or traumatic event does not define an individual. Stop acting like it does. Slimmers was also telling solely Madame, in a private chat, one person. A person that abused that trust and spread it in a disgusting last-ditch effort to appear the victim. Don't you dare try to equate the two.
How does that make any sense? Now, if he's not providing any evidence, so I have nothing but his word on this that she told her.
When has that stopped you before?
Emotions also don't have to make sense, especially when it comes to teenagers feeling them with a shuffle button on.
But I am trying to contact Madam, as I already have spoken with her once. I'm trying to contact with her again to see if she can provide me with evidence that she didn't tell her age.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. Ask someone to prove a negative. Evidence 101, guys, you don't prove a negative. You provide evidence for a positive claim. In this case, I told her my age was a positive claim made by Slimmers in response to Madame indicating that she didn't know how old the artist was. So he's not even going to the right person in trying to prove this negative, on top of the fact that you can't even do that to begin with. Even then, both Madame and Slimmers have claimed that this exchange happened in calls. So we already know that no evidence for either claim exists on either side. This is where credibility comes into play, and Madame has already demonstrated that her credibility is unreliable. This is Akumu's biggest problem. He keeps approaching his arguments through proving negatives rather than proving positives. Slimmers doesn't have a copyright. This assumes that because he didn't see it or that it wasn't mentioned, it doesn't exist. Slimmers did not tell Madame her age. This requires the entire conversation history between Madame and Slimmers be analyzed rather than simply providing proof of the positive, which has already been indicated does not exist. Slimmers did not mention this fact in her Instagram stories. This requires all of the Instagram stories from that time be taken into consideration, but Akumu only provided a single slide from one of them. Akumu, you're arguing backwards from a negative stance, and a negative claim only works if you can provide proof of impossibility or evidence of absence, neither of which you have managed to do. Your arguments have even been disproven with these methods, like when we showcased that it was impossible for the screenshot you claim incited the docs to have done so because it didn't exist at the time. Or how about how the absence of evidence for either of Madame or Slimmers' claims regarding what age or lack of age was given does not prove that either account did or did not happen.
Now, I don't know where people got off with this. Like I said, if you watch the intro, I mean, obviously, if you're watching the video, you see the intro. People are saying I've doxed her. I don't know where people got off with that.
People weren't saying that you doxed her. They were saying don't dox her. Because based on your tweets, that's what they assumed you were trying to do. You had her case files and county and was asking what her number was on a public forum, for fuck's sake.
But honestly, this makes it so much worse for Claire or Slimmers. I mean, the fact that you never mentioned in your video that Madam, even though it says right here, Claire also told me that Madam did eventually credit her for a short period of time, but after the situation had escalated, it was removed. The fact that you didn't even mention the fact that Madam corrected it and then removed it because of the cancel culture, and every other YouTuber never mentions this, except for in Nani's video, after the drama had already gotten to the point of doxing, it just shows that she didn't care, let alone, nor did you care about telling that information.
Hey, Akumu, guy who said that he looked over Slimmers' Instagram and, in particular, the story where she made the claim against Madame. Yeah, you missed this part. Yeah, shock to nobody, I have the entire story. This screenshot, if you read it, is the conversation between Madame and Slimmers indicating that Madame was correcting the mistake. This same section of conversation that she read off in Nani's video, which you acknowledge was her making note of the information. So Slimmers presenting the same information in her original Instagram story doesn't count as her making this information publicly available. The story indicates that there was a problem, that Slimmers commented, they talked it out, both apologized, and everything was made good. She even indicates in the description of the Instagram story that the situation had been fixed. It's right there. So what's your excuse here, Kumu? At this point, your main complaint is that Slimmers' original Instagram story, the one that incited a mob against Madame, didn't clarify that Madame fixed the credit. Yet here, as we can plainly see, it did. And had you actually gone to her Instagram and gone over the original story, as you claim, you would have seen this. So what gives? Did your bias just make you blind for a few minutes? Is this the truth we were all afraid of?
Complains a lot in his comments that nobody watched his video. Well, it's super clear you didn't watch anybody else's. Ponder and I mentioned our respective videos and laughed our asses off because it was stupid. Mind you, Ponder's video came out after his, but mine was posted nearly a whole 2 weeks before both. Madame said it in her video, which everyone saw there was evidence of, and Nani's video, in the 8 minutes of unedited footage, you can literally see where the credit is mentioned. Oh my god! Are you just actively trying to ignore everyone else's points, or is this part of your troll act?
You know, on top of evidence being nice to include in videos where you're making points, examples are good too. Just saying, you gave examples on who made good videos, that being Nani and Hopeless Peaches. Why didn't you cite some people who made bad videos so we actively knew who you were talking about and what their potential offenses were?
I think those were the only 2 videos he bothered to actually watch to a certain extent. Either that or he's hiding a bunch of shit on purpose and is being maliciously dishonest just to get his way.
Also, if you acknowledge that you don't have the evidence to address certain things, why'd you put out the video? Wouldn't it have made more sense to wait until you got into contact with the person you were trying to get into contact with, or at least save the issue for later and specify that you were waiting for confirmation on it? There's nothing wrong with waiting to see the whole picture. Wouldn't have fucking helped on this point though, because you're wrong. We can prove that you're wrong, meaning that you either said something that you knew was wrong because you claimed that you checked over the Instagram story, which would mean that you lied, or you didn't check it as thoroughly as you would have led people to believe, which means that you were either being deceptive or you lied. Wow, you and Madame really do fit together nicely.
That information was out there. The drama might be less. It might have been lessened. Slimmers may have not have. It wouldn't have gone to this point to where I've had to look into the case.
Actually, no, it wouldn't have, because it was there. Whoops.
You made it so much worse, dude. You made it so much worse.
Oh, yo, that's basically how we all reacted to Madame's video. And that's basically it. The last half minute is just him saying he's done and animating his head onto one of the antagonists from Parasite, which is, super weird, I might add, because his profile pic at the time was the protagonist from Parasite. Like, what?
We made it! We survived with most of our brain cells intact!
Too bad we're not entirely done.
Curses!
Ultimately, what can be said? That Madame ended up being a lot more in the wrong for using artwork that she hadn't even asked the artist to use, and lied by saying it was a commission when it was actually fan art.
Not to mention the fact that this is a repeated behavior. I had a chat with the other artist in question named Mokafua, who alleges she also had credit removed. There was even supposedly a witness to this. Also, the D'Angelo video that was briefly mentioned had another artist who claims to have been scammed by Madame.
There's also the fact that Akumu totally mixed up the definitions for trademarks or patents with artistic copyright,
which takes 5 seconds to Google to check.
Then there was the misconstruing of the timeline and making the claim that Madame attempted to dox Slimmers in response to a targeted harassment campaign by Slimmers, when that couldn't have been possible based on when the attempted dox actually happened.
And a bunch of really shittily cropped screenshots, a lot of which are out of context to serve as narrative.
And there's even the guy's behavior behind the scenes. He actually had his Twitter taken down multiple times for harassment and transphobia and is currently ban evading with a new account.
Plus that thing on Instagram. I don't know if it's funny or sad how this guy seems to have a different argument on each platform. He says in the video he's trying to be fair, but openly admits to being biased in the comments.
He said on Instagram that he doesn't insult or attack people unless they do it to him first, but his first interaction with Slimmers was him saying, "Hey, you're the dumbass artist everyone is talking about."
He says that cancel culture is bad, but actively participates in it, and has noted that he doesn't care if it happens to people he doesn't care about, even if the claims were proven false.
Let's also not forget that even though Akumu claimed that he wasn't going to defend anything that Madame actually did, he did create stipulations that removed her responsibility and the offenses that people were getting onto her for. He claimed that what she did wasn't art theft, but then failed to provide an accurate substitute for what it was, even then that intended substitute simply being a synonym of what people were saying she'd done. He partially validated her reasoning for attempting to dox Slimmers by stating that it was in response to a targeted harassment campaign that Slimmers had already directed towards her, and this is even further exemplified if you're are aware that Akumu conducted an interview with Madame where she claims, without proof, that she already knew the number was fake, which Akumu provides validation for, which he also could not prove at the time. Don't worry, I'll get to that in my next upcoming project. And finally, he tried to make the claim that Slummers didn't actually own the copyright to her artwork, and therein Madame was not doing anything wrong by using non-copyrighted artwork in her videos, which is just even dumber when you consider that he spent so long trying to convince us that the proper terminology for what happened was plagiarism, that being a violation of intellectual property rights, except if Akumu was right and Slummers didn't own her artwork, then it wouldn't be plagiarism and wouldn't be a violation of intellectual property rights, because there would not have been intellectual property rights to violate. So once again, despite saying that he wasn't going to defend Madame, the stipulations and reasoning he presents in this video effectively remove her of almost all responsibility in this situation and tries to prove that she basically did nothing wrong. Akumu, not only did you set out to make it seem that Madame was less in the wrong, but only prove that Slummers was less in the wrong, you can't even be consistent in what your goal is with this video. Now, Akumu has made note that the indication of it being credit theft and not plagiarism was a mistake, which is all fine and dandy, minus the fact that upon figuring out that this was a mistake, he made no effort to correct this either in editing the video or in the video's description itself. That was something Nezzy and I had to figure out by going through the comment section, and if he tries to say that this was a mistake he corrected to people personally in the comments and that excuses the mistake, then that should also be applied to Slummers, as she also made an effort to correct misunderstandings in the comments of her original call-out post on Madame. Except with Slummers, it was a result of audience misunderstanding and not her directly using the wrong word. This is made into even further a problem when you consider the fact that Akumu himself has acknowledged that he has deleted comments made on this video, which effectively means that he could have corrected some people in the comment section regarding him meaning plagiarism and not credit theft, but those comments might no longer exist, meaning that they, and the corrections stipulated in his replies to them, would no longer exist for other people watching the video, and those people would not know this unless they commented asking for clarification on the exact same thing.
Even then, how did you not realize that the very concept of credit theft went against your whole argument that theft can only apply to physical goods? Credit, by its very nature, is not a physical good, and because of that, credit theft is an oxymoron by your logic.
And even then, plagiarism describes the same thing that people are accusing Madame for. It's just that the wording is different. And I should make note, the thing that Madame is being accused of is digital art theft, which would be along the same lines as credit theft as Akumu has propositioned in this video. It's just that we're not saying that theft can only apply to physical goods. If you want to say that we, from this point on, refer to it as plagiarism, fine, but that actually runs into a different potential problem because plagiarism has a completely different general understanding from what was being discussed here. Most people think of plagiarism as that thing you get kicked out of college for, so we would have to completely reassess a lot of people's understanding of the word. Maybe we could... Oh, you know what? I've got it. From now on, we'll use the term Viper.
Why Viper?
Violation of intellectual property rights. VIPR, Viper.
You know what? That actually makes a lot of sense, considering what a snake Madame has been through this whole thing.
There you go, guys. From now on, as artists, let us band together and refer to this sort of thing as people being a viper.
Actually, with the way YouTube is going about demonetizing words, this could even work in the community's favor.
You see? It's a win-win! I think it's safe to say what we can call this guy.
White Knight?
White Knight.
Well, that was a fun video. Farewell for now, my little monsters.
Part 1 was on your channel. This is part 2, and we're on my channel now. Everyone tell Nezzy what we do around these parts. Ready?
I have a bad feeling about this, particularly because I don't carry protection, and I'm subscribed to you.
Fanart feature! First up, we have Octomom featuring My Nerdy Self by Stefano Satan's Prince, which has an adorable big-eyed babu being sweet and directing people towards me. I also highly appreciate Nerdy Selves, as my artist is a nerd, and nerds create some of the most fun content around. Look at that big old happy smile. Adorable. Ready to cause a shipping war, we have Submissive by Panda Mochi Rice. The fans are probably so confused, and yet others are like, oh my god, this opens up so many possibilities. Aw, and poor little Fiend's confused face down in the corner. Man, I really do love the soft romantic vibe in this one. Thrashing around in Akumu's face might be The Tentacles of Hypocrisy by artist Wacky. Ponder, help! I'm sorry, my child, but the tentacles of hypocrisy have found you. The tentacles of hypocrisy are everywhere. They govern and rule over all of us. There is no escaping. All you can do is try to appease them with awesome, fun artwork, which Wacky seems to have done, so they should probably be good, really. As a subject of idol worship, here's Chubby Queen by Mama Molly, where a cutie pie is basking in PonderSprocket's accurate height and chub. The adorable big eyes are such a draw here, and I love it so much. That along with the smooshy face, I just want to pinch your cute little cheeks. Ready to roll up on them means it's Ya Like My Clown by Nate Roll 20. So, fun note, this whole time I'd been looking at this piece like the little dots are PonderSprocket's nostrils, but I just realized that they could be eyes, and now my brain is fighting. Either way, yes, thank you, I shall accept Juicebox. Blushing like a sweet bean, here's the Octomama Part 1 and 2 by Hazy Brienne, with some adorable heart eyes and tail wagging to complement the absolutely lovely way that PonderSprocket was drawn here. Her strength coupled with Fiend's cuteness is something that I live for, and that paired with the adorable cutie pie is perfection. For more hearts, we turn to Sprocket and Me by Hitsuji Tookami, where PonderSprocket looks as though she's sneaking up to someone to give a hug. I just imagine her bumping into them from behind, or they back up into her and there's just the softness of the chest and the strength of the arms. What I'm saying is you're about to be hugged. Much like the hugging scene in Senpai Noticed Me by Miss Kawaii Pants, where a cutie pie has gone full god mode. I imagine many squeaky noises would come from this image if I could hear it. I also very much enjoy all the shimmering around the eyes. I can feel the determination and resolve in this piece. A trait potentially shared in A Fake Thumbnail by Acid Nitram, where I imagine there's a very intense resolve to talk about something incredibly stupid, which is just very appropriate. I'm also loving the pink highlights on everything. That paired with the green in Acid's hair, which of course I approve of, makes everything look really cool. And as a turn of events, we have Dear Pester Ponder by Dear Soviet, where this time it's someone sneaking up on PonderSprocket. I'm not entirely sure what's got Dear so interested, but I very much enjoy the expression they're sporting, as well as the way they conveyed PonderSprocket's expression. Very nice. Here for a new cosplay session, it's Ponder Lockhart by Lone3x3, where PonderSprocket is cosplaying as Tifa, and we've got a background cutie cosplaying as Cloud. I also see that wee bit of drool. You can't hide it from me. Real quick, I just want to say that I greatly enjoy how the hair was colored, and now, insert joke about using that sword. For some penultimate inspiration, we have Embrace Your Old Art by Alistair Fox, where PonderSprocket is inspiring a cute little Alistair Fox to embrace what they've made, which is true. Even if your art isn't where you want it to be, it's farther than where you started, and just one more step on your artistic journey. Even if it's not the best, your efforts should still be acknowledged. So keep on smiling, you cutie, and enjoy what you love. And we'll finish off with Octo Girl's Swoon by the Zodiac Lord, where PonderSprocket is about to sweep a sweet girl off of her tentacles, and Fiend, oh, that poor boy, he's so confused. Human top with tentacle bottom? What is this chicanery? The adorable blushing surprise is probably the absolutely best thing here. That along with the character's design, because, I mean, she's just really cute, can I just say. If you like any of these pieces, please don't hesitate to give the artist some love with the links that I have provided down in the description. You can also check out Nezzy Monster's channel for a heck of a lot more cool art stuff.
I'm not actually a Loch Ness monster, I swear. Don't believe the fake news. Ponder, why did you do this to me?
My links are also down in the description if you're so inclined. And with that, Octomama out. Oh, that was good. Finally got that done with. On to the next... Fuck, what happened to the lights? Hello? Hello?
Oh, Ponder. Things are far from settled. Welcome to the darkness. Come with me. We have much to discuss.